What's popular, YouTube? Another day, another demo. And today we are here. We are at the podium. The top 3 players on Lao's top 20 of 2022. The list that doesn't mirror HLTV's or tries to, doesn't try to predict it, just is my list and is one that is complementary to HLTV's and tries to go off all the demos and games that I casted this year, where in those two aspects I haven't done more of in any other year. Okay, this is my top 1 year of watching demos and casting, having casted both majors and been there for the big moments. So I wanted to use this list to reflect that. Okay, top 3 is a very special part of this list. I made a paper plane, okay, because we're about to take off, and we're taking off with the UFOs that live in top 3. The 3 remaining players, if you're not brand new to CSGO, you probably have an idea of who these guys are going to be. It's the order of which you want to know. And this year is going to be very special for each of these players, no matter where they're placed. This part of the list, these are players who nobody can figure out how to be this good at CSGO. And as somebody who demo reviews content and watches for a player playing one half in their position on attack or defense, I am emphasizing decision-making, individual level, and then I'm talking about these guys' stories. I mean, CSGO is just as much about the team game for me as it is about the person. And top 3 on this list, on HLTV's list, is kind of very special for that reason. They are the whetstone for the rest of the scene to figure out how good you can get at Counter-Strike. They're the ones who prove that the skill ceiling is so high that nobody can really compete with their level of play. And over the course of an entire year, achieved levels of stats that most players will never attain even once or even for 1 month in their careers. Take that into account. The players who are in top 3 in almost any given year on HLTV will have achieved stats that most players will never achieve in a month. They will not have their best month ever, will not stand to a year of this level. And some of these players are doing it year after year. It's incredible. Every sport, every esport has examples of these kinds of guys, right? They have that Messi guy and the Ronaldo guy, and then they get Federer and whoever, Michael Jordan and LeBron. And these people, even though there's teams that we talk about and there's organizations and there's fans, there's so many aspects to sports that are incredible. There is something special about the individuals at the very top, and that's what these lists are all about. And so without further ado, I'd like to give you some clues as to who I believe is number 3 this year. They're all aliens. I'll give you that much, okay? This one, this specific alien is somebody who in this year, oh man, I give it so many clues that I have to be very careful about what to say here. They had an outstanding major. They had an outstanding major, and I think that's the biggest thing when it comes to this list. They are somebody who doesn't necessarily have the best team, but might have one of the best partners. They're somebody who is a breakout from the last few years that is now getting a huge amount of notoriety and recognition for good reason. I'm dying here because I feel like I already like, because there's so few people that it could be. You know, this player has won a tournament this year and didn't get the MVP. Okay, this player is the highest that he's ever been on my list. This will probably be the highest he's ever been on HLTV's and the highest of his career as well. One in the name. Okay. The prodigy of the online period, specifically. If that wasn't Zaiwu, who actually was number 1 in 2019. Shiro, ladies and gentlemen. My number 3 player of 2022. An absolute alien in this game. And an unreal talent. And somebody who realized it in a big way. And although Cloud9 they're one of many teams who won tournaments this year, and many of the tournaments that were won by other teams were bigger. They won Dallas. They still took out FaZe. They got a LAN win. While their presence kind of ended at the Rio Major because they weren't a part of Blast, which is just something that Cloud9 don't have that some other teams have. they did a lot with the presence that they had. Look, I wanted to talk about this real quick because Shiro is the biggest example of oppers that have come into the top 20 that have taken over the top 5. Okay, so back in 2017 on the HLTV top 20 list, you didn't have a single opper in top 4, and then after that, from 5 to 9, you had Device, Fallen, Kenny S, Simple as number 8, and then Guardian as number 9. Okay, in 2018 all the way until 2021 and probably 2022, the top 3 players have only consisted of one rifler. Do you know who that is? His name is Nico. Okay, outside of that player, it has been a combination of Simple, Zywoo, and Device. 2018 was Device's kind of best chance to be the number 1 player in his career. And in my opinion, before I did my list, I actually gave it to Device. I believed he had a better year than Simple. But that was also a year where Simple had probably his best year. So it's really hard to say. If you guys are around for that, Simple did unbelievable things in 2018. So, and then especially since then, that was his first time in first place. He's also been first in 2021 after winning the Stockholm Major, getting the MVP in the best run, not dropping a map, MVP of that event, unreal stuff. In between those 2 years, it was Zywoo, right? For 2020 and 2019. So this is all to say that these 3 oppers had dominated for the last 4 years and have been the first oppers in the top 3 since kind of the inception of the list. Not in CSGO, at least. Let me be clear. Sorry, top 2. Device was top 3 for honestly the majority of his career. He had a top 3 in 2019, top 3 2016, top 3 2015, top 3 2018, top 2 in fact. Shiro is the new guy, the challenger, and the guy who again was born of the online period, and the guy who absolutely cleaned up this year, put up elite statistics, had all of the markings of a player who needs to be considered as one of the best, and has absolutely kind of taken the scene by storm with his opping style and everything that came out of 2020 in terms of low DPR oppers that were very careful, that had very high clutch rates. That was Shiro embodied. It was all about Shiro. And in 2022, he is the most varied he's the most varied version of himself with the best stats to boot and some very deep runs and important matches where he played very well. One of those matches is going to be the game that we're going to watch right now. Okay, this match was a comeback. It was at the Rio Major. It was versus Imperial, who you might think, Imperial, why are we watching this game? First of all, it's really fun, so we'll watch in for that. The CT side is an enormous comeback, and a huge part of this comeback was because of Shiro. Shiro, I want you to imagine Shiro. Look at this, 16 to 4, 14 to 6, and Shiro has no armor and gets naded. Wow, his heart must sink here as he thinks they might lose to Imperial again. That's the story of this match. At Antwerp, they lost to Imperial. They crumbled. And at this major, they crumbled as well. They crumbled versus Mouse Sports in playoffs. At least it was a little deeper. That's all we can say. But Cloud9 still have some, we'll call them mental issues. I think that's what Nafany said. And he said, what's the big deal? Everyone has mental issues. And that's true. But when you're an elite team, you don't want that to be the reason you lost. You'd rather it be anything else, honestly. You'd rather it be someone bottom fragging. That's why Inters is potentially on the chopping block, because he got scapegoated as the reason that Cloud9 lost. They didn't lose because of Inters. Let's be real. You think they lost to Mouse Sports because of Inters? No, they lost to Mouse Sports because they crumbled mentally like they have at every other juncture. If you want to blame that on Inters, that's a different story. I don't see anybody blaming that on Inters. And I'm telling you right now, that's the reason he's getting scapegoating. Anyways, we're not here to talk about that. Shiro put up unbelievable, monstrous level numbers at the Rio Challenger stage. I'm going to actually go back and look at this. Shiro had 146 kills in his first 4 maps at the Challenger stage of the Rio Major. 146 kills. Think about some of the greatest best of 5s of all time and the greatest performances in those best of 5s. You're talking about an average of what? 25 to 30 kills per map. If it was 30, 150 kills. If they average 30 kills a map, Shiro had 146 in 4 maps. 4 maps. And he didn't stop there. He averaged a 1.45 rating across the entire Challenger stage, which might have been 8 or 9 maps. And then at Legends was not the reason they lost. Okay. So this is a big game right here. They have to make a big comeback. And Shiro's got to be a big figure as the CT opper on this team, who's finally bought himself armor. And again, they lost to Imperial at Antwerp. And they lost on Mirage. They lost on Vertigo, and they lost on Overpass, if you remember. So when we see this score line, when we're sitting at Rio Major, we think, oh my god, not again. And Shiro says, that's right, not again. He says, not today, boys. He says, just listen to me. We're going to be fine. Shiro had a couple of great rounds in the CT half that I remember. And I think we were casting this. I can't remember. I think
It needs to be Nafferty hunting. He'll find it, but there's still no time.
Wow, him being in that position, getting his kills. That's it. Fur on the flank, getting used as an aggressive lurker. Cello closing his eyes, looking up, breathing in, feeling the victory coming their way.
The Rio Major feels like it happened 8 months ago. Okay. Shiro playing the A site. There are some interesting ideas that Imperial bring on, and even though they're not as highly ranked a team, again, mentally they destroyed Cloud9 last time. They deserve some respect here. I think all the kills, all the kills as well that Shiro gets in this game need to be taken very seriously, because we saw from Imperial what it meant to be a legend in this game, and that just because you're washed up doesn't mean that you have to lose just because your mechanics aren't as sharp as the guy on the other side of the server. We learned that being a legend is actually meaningful, because when it comes to the pressure, you can stand to it in a way that some of these other players can't, no matter how good they are. Good players are a dime a dozen, as we learn. So let's see how Shiro deals with this split. Now, there's always the risk they come elevator, but his teammate was spotting this cross. Look at Shiro, full trust. Now he waits. They still could split on him, and this spot is actually strong for Imperial, but the problem is that if they don't apply this pressure correctly, then all that happens is they're far too split up and they walk into some ops, right? So look at the way that Cloud9 are organizing around this defense, just clearing out angles for Shiro in elevator, and now into mid as well. And now they don't have to be worried about anything except for the B site, as they went unchecked as well over on A. So kind of very good movements from the whole team. Oh, let him get the bomb down. I was going to say good luck with that. All right. Now, Shiro, of the 3 remaining players in this list, has the least versatility. Okay. So I kind of want to talk about some things about the rest of this list, all right? Shiro has the least versatility, kind of the least variance when it comes to what weapons he gets kills with. He's the guy who ops the most. And I personally don't like specialization quite as much as we get deeper and deeper. I like versatility personally. I think that's a very important thing in Counter-Strike, no matter how kind of serious and traditional you are with your roles in your team. Because sometimes you can't op. Sometimes you got to pick up the rifle and do a lot with it. And the team is structured in a way that gives him the op a lot. But I'm just saying for me personally. But I know I talk about stars and role player stars and superstars, you know, in a way that other people don't really talk about. When I talked about ROPS and Blame F. And I apply that as well to oppers and how much they're opping versus how much they can use other weapons. When we talk about like KAST, flash assist, opening kills, these are very thin margins that we're, you know, trying to compare against the other two players, although whoever they may be on the list. But there are better arguments in general, stats-wise, for them as well in this regard. I think if you count online games, of course, then Shiro gets an edge. But even if you don't count online games, Shiro has very good arguments. But total amount of games played isn't quite at the same amount as the other two remaining players on the list, whoever they might be. And also, he doesn't have an MVP. So if all of those things are relevant to you... Oh my god, let's look at this. Hold on, I'm going back. So this is one of the big rounds of the match here for Shiro, where his team gets split upon late into the round. A similar strat to what we saw last round, except executed better here by Imperial. So Flash goes down on the ramp to go and search things out. They see nothing. Nafany jump spotting, and the middle of the map is about to get broken open, and we're gonna have to see Shiro respond to it. So we have a late art smoke come out from the T side, and then Shiro is worried about ramp, but at 45 seconds, it's a bit confusing. And now, with the middle kill going down, Shiro has to watch his flank. So let's see. So here's the big one. He spots Fur, and then he falls off the angle instead of fighting towards Fur. Fur calms it. They run to the site. Vinny takes the bomb with him. It gets flown into the site. Bomb eventually goes to get planted. Shiro doesn't get tunnel vision. In a 5-7 kill to make sure the bomb can't get planted. And while the trade comes in, it comes in way too late. And Shiro deals with all of that because he pulled guard on the guy down A ramp. Didn't play for himself right there. Thought ahead in the situation. Went right to where Imperial wanted to get to before him. And this leaves Axile and Inters in a 2v2. And of course, they get the first kill. And this is pretty easy. This is a very smart smoke by Axile, actually, in the retake. And if they come approach him from the short side, it's going to be all too easy. Now, they're just looking for anybody lurky. Of course, short is the most likely place that this T could be, even though the bomb isn't planted for him exactly. And he doesn't play it correctly. The bomb's planted on the opposite side of default. Tries to come through with a late peek. Doesn't want to be obvious. But in the process, gives himself kind of no chance to win. That was 10-15. And now Shiro's given his team a chance to win the whole game. I love lemon juice. Shiro had good flash assists this whole year. And as somebody who plays back as far back as he does, it's obviously a great stat. In terms of clutches, he wasn't exactly at the same level as everyone else, I would just like to say. And not at the same level as he was in 2021, where he really stood out for the clutch rounds that he had. But I think in the process of not being in the clutches often, he improved as a player overall, in general, and showed a lot from that perspective. Yeah. I can't emphasize enough how I'm talking about very narrow margins. I'm talking about aliens of Counter-Strike. We are in the stratosphere right now. Okay, look at this. Oh, look how he follows that first fight. Playing off this default box once again, and doing so beautifully. Vinny, the second target, one more time, and then he goes up top for the hard shot. 12-15. If he dies at any point or misses or makes any big mistake, his team could lose, and he doesn't care because he knows he's gonna get it. He knows he's gonna get it. Do you see that? Do you want to watch that again? Yeah, I want to watch that again. Let's do it. I love that energy. Let's look at the third shot. Look at this. Okay, this position, what Shiro just did right here, you don't do at 12-15. Okay, you don't do when if you die, you could lose the whole game. You don't do that when you're 3v2 and it's 12-15. You don't do this. But the game that Shiro's playing right now, and the confidence that Shiro has, and the player that Shiro is in 2022, not playing to not lose, Shiro is comfortable and confident taking this fight, and they probably wouldn't expect him to even try something like this. Yes, even on a micro level, knowing it's Shiro opping if you're on the other side of the server, you do not expect Shiro to make this play. This play is so risky. If you miss, you almost certainly will die. You have cover you have to drop down to. You are very easy to hit. You are already being watched by the T's scaling. And as you can see, there's no cover between you or the T's. But again, if you hit the shot, you live. If you miss, you die. And he hits it. And that was what's emblematic of that specific attack. The fact that Shiro in this year was willing to do that at this point in the game versus a team that he couldn't beat last time, that spoke volumes. You know what? I want to end there. That was such a sick round and such a good moment for Shiro. A shining moment for a guy who we have no idea how much better he can get, right? He's somebody who doesn't do English interviews. I got a little bit out of him at the Rio Major, but in general, he's not doing too much. He's 21 years old. He's climbing the leaderboards. He's had his best year on record. He is yet to be playing on his most stable team. Surely a team with Axel and Shiro on it, who are achieving top 5 player stats, can achieve more as a roster. They can be number 1 in the world. They can close out more tournaments, and we haven't seen that yet. So we have no idea how good Shiro's stats can be at one point. That's it. So Shiro, number 3 for me. No small feat. Hats off to the kid. Love talking and watching Shiro, and love to see how much better he's gotten and how consistent he's been over the past 2 years. So that's it. Let me know who you think number 2 is going to be. And why don't you just put it in order? Number 2 and number 1. A very exciting year and a very tough year. And that's why it's been extra impressive to be ranked highly in this part of at the end of this year. It's like something like 8 teams won tier 1 events this year. Something crazy. All right. Anyways, thanks for watching. Come back tomorrow for number 2.